Angie, these allegations are disturbing. Prominent media owner Antony Catalano is accused of dragging a woman by her hair and ankles, as well as swinging a clothes iron at her head.
Hello, I'm Linton Besser. Welcome to Media Watch. And first tonight, the sordid allegations against one of this country's most important media executives, prompting an earthquake across a newspaper empire that stretches from coast to coast.
He was charged with assault, false imprisonment and making threats to kill. He's now on extended leave from his role as Australian Community Media Chairman.
10 days ago, media mogul Antony Catalano, whose Australian Community Media, or ACM, boasts some 65 newspapers across Australia, faced court, charged with having battered his wife so badly she ended up in hospital. The following day, ACM released a statement from the 59-year-old announcing he was standing down from his role at the company immediately.
I am deeply ashamed and humiliated. I know that my actions have caused hurt and concern for others, including the woman involved.
Soon, others came forward with their own stories that Antony Catalano has denied of renegade workplace behaviour, previously overseeing
a boys' club culture in which female colleagues were routinely referred to as doll and babe, and cocaine was flagrantly abused at work events.
Speculation over who gets what between him and her, and his departure to rehab, fodder for the fish wrappers everywhere. Dubbed the Cat, Antony Catalano's penchant for partying thrust him into gossip columns which documented his rise and rise, from one-time property writer to property listings tycoon. He and his business partner Alex Waislitz paying $115 million in 2019 for ACM, a bundle of 170 regional titles, including the Canberra Times, the Newcastle Herald and the Illawarra Mercury, with Catalano promising,
I haven't invested in this business with a view to going in there and stripping it bare and closing it down. I want to grow the business, not shrink it to greatness.
And yet, buffeted by the same headwinds that have seen the media industry contract worldwide, his tenure has been marked less by greatness than shrinkage. Shrinking revenue, shrinking profit, and the shrinking of ACM's empire. At least 30 titles effectively shuttered, replaced by an online shell that offers very little, if any, local news at all. Together with the sale of printing presses, including in Launceston and Murray Bridge, as well as high street properties in Moree, Mudgee, Lithgow, Port Lincoln and beyond. The yard sale raking in more than $40 million as of 2024. Under pressure during the pandemic, Catalano's company also put out the begging bowl for federal government help, banking more than $28 million in JobKeeper assistance and more than $10 million in taxpayer-funded grants designed to support regional journalism. Cold comfort for the 86 publications suspended during COVID, especially those which never returned. Meanwhile, Catalano has been enjoying the dividends that have poured into his and his partners' bank books, some $27 million in just the 3 years to 2024, while gradually shifting ACM's focus from journalism to property listings, to raising loans for farmers, and to a failed attempt to broker insurance policies. Now, with Catalano in rehab, then off to answer criminal charges, rumours the company could be put up for sale are being hastily denied by a pissed-off managing director who is also trying to deal with a staff revolt. A spokesperson for ACM told us the shuttering of printing presses, the closure of unprofitable titles and the sale of real estate was prudent business management. And
we are transforming a legacy print business into a digital media business, and that has incurred significant restructuring costs. Journalism is at the heart of our business.
It's a pledge that must ring hollow for swathes of country Australia, whose inhabitants have seen their beloved newspapers put into an early grave, thanks to a rapacious proprietor whose appalling personal conduct can only but sharpen their sense of loss. Now to the AI insurgency terrorising online publishing, and set to a rather jazzy jingle.
I got that swagger, I got the feel. I got that new thing.
That was Google rolling out its AI tool in 2024, which promotes AI-generated summaries of Google search results, alleviating us of the onerous task of actually visiting websites. The artificial intelligence, often very intelligent indeed.
How many rocks should I eat?
Answer?
According to UC Berkeley geologists, eating at least one small rock per day is recommended.
It's just a recommendation. Google nudged us further along this path in May last year with Google's Search AI mode, offering even fewer links to the outside world and plunging media companies into a state of existential crisis.
The AI Armageddon is here for online news publishers.
That Armageddon, a roughly 50% plunge in traffic to some websites in just 3 years. The Washington Post down about 25 million visits a month, while Business Insider's traffic has tumbled by half, the outlet culling 21% of its staff in May last year. 6 months ago, after the first full year of AI summaries being available in Australia, an ABC analysis found top Australian news sites like the Daily Mail and news.com.au, as well as the ABC, were getting fewer visitors, and that
most Australian news sites are seeing declines in search traffic, with one down by 35%.
the one was 7news.com.au, which told us the figure was wrong, but declined to say by how much. Meanwhile, by one measure of search traffic, technology news sites are being smashed. Referrals via Google search to the internet's most read tech publications now in the toilet. One down 97%, and the top 5 all down by 2/3 or more. Even the esteemed Wired, published by Condé Nast, owner of The New Yorker, is down 62%. And this might just be the beginning. Barry Adams, an internet search expert who consults to major media houses like The New York Times and The Guardian, predicted last year that online traffic would be decimated. And when we checked in with him last week, his outlook was no rosier.
The click-through rate on the top organic result drops from an average 27% to 11%. Publishers who've gotten used to endless traffic growth now have to adapt. I suspect some will disappear.
For its part, Google objects most strongly to suggestions it's mortally wounding the news industry, insisting it's actually driving more queries and higher quality clicks, whatever they are, and blamed flawed methodologies for reports of traffic slumps. In fact, Google says,
user trends are shifting traffic to different sites, such as an in-depth review, an original post, a unique perspective, or a thoughtful first-person analysis.
Experts we spoke to did agree these changes could eventually put a broom through much of the piffle that pollutes the internet. But in the meantime, smaller publishers are being squeezed hardest, their traffic down 60% over the past 2 years, while the complete picture remains obscured by Google's control of the data.
It does not provide tools or give researchers access to examine its search systems.
Meanwhile, the silverbacks of the industry, like the New York Times, global wire service Reuters and The Atlantic, are deploying a range of measures to block AI machines from stealing from their vast online repositories. Some are also suing AI companies for scraping their data, and some are signing lucrative deals to formally grant certain AI tools access to their journalism. Global behemoth News Corp is a case in point, suing AI company Perplexity for scraping its content, while also inking deals with OpenAI and Meta worth a combined $100 million per year. Earlier this month, News Corp's global CEO was upbeat about the future of the company, insisting it was immune from the threat of AI because it was managing to transform itself into a so-called input company.
We're an input in the way that semiconductors are an input, in the way that data centres are an input, in the way that energy is an input.
From writing the first draft of history to shifts as data entry clerks. If Thompson is right, and we should all pray he is not, what a misery this would be for journalists of the future. And we turn finally tonight to the question of power in Australian politics, with a series of essays published by one woman who's seen plenty of it.
Swimming with narcissists. Why good people leave politics. Power and silence, the strategy of saying nothing. Using ethical influence to create change.
This magnum opus, serialised in online news site Crikey, was published under the byline Joe Tanoski, a former Chief of Staff to Australia's Defence Minister who hung out her shingle as an advisor for hire with almost 6,000 words on power, replete with gems like this.
Power does not announce itself with menace. It smiles, it welcomes, it offers guidance, and all the while it is assessing you.
And this.
Formal authority is visible, informal authority is decisive.
And buttressing these musings with a series of quotes from some rather big names.
As Frederick Douglass observed, as Václav Havel once observed, as Elie Wiesel warned, as Lord Acton famously warned.
This tour de force attracted the eye of one Toby Walsh, a professor of artificial intelligence who, after pumping one of these Crikey essays, the one about ethical influence, into an AI checker, posted this little reminder about ethical publishing.
It would have been ethical to have declared that AI wrote much of this article. Shame on you, Crikey News.
Oof. By Thursday evening, Crikey's readers were met not with Joe's musings on power, but the raw exercise of it. The deletion of the essays, with the website's editor penning this explanation.
Yesterday, we published an article by a contributor who later confirmed they used AI in some aspects of its production. This goes against our editorial policies.
On Friday, the announcement prompted inquests at other publications that have accepted Tanoski's work, including Women's Agenda, which published this opinion piece about courage in the wake of last December's Bondi massacre. We asked the editor of Women's Agenda about Tanoski's work and the outlet's AI policy. She told us that she was examining the issue and...
While Women's Agenda is a small team with no outside investment, we're working hard to establish an AI framework.
The Saturday paper, which carried Joe Tanoski's analysis of Australia's nuclear submarine program, has now updated her article with a disclosure of what it says was limited use of ChatGPT. Joe Tanoski's AI-assisted literature remains on Substack, a website which gives two hoots about the ethical use of AI, while the author herself brought a paring knife to LinkedIn, that temple of positive corporate encouragement, and proceeded to split hairs.
Any suggestion that the article was AI-generated is plain wrong. For this article, I used AI to check facts, refine word choices and proofread copy.
So why did Crikey take such a hard line? Because in 2024 it drew this rather deep line in the sand.
AI-generated news is unhuman slop. Crikey is banning it. Crikey will never use AI to create what you read and see from us.
The two biggest newspaper publishers in Australia are less strict. Nine doesn't prohibit AI, but does prohibit it being used in the writing of copy, while News Corp requires the oversight of an editorial manager. Joe Tanoski confirmed to us she has indeed been using AI, not to generate her essays from scratch, but to assist her along the way, and explained she had not known about Crikey's tough AI policy before filing to the publication. She also said,
I get there's AI slop and photos that are completely fake. I'm offended that I'm now being accused of this type of conduct when I was using it to check and refine my work. There are reasonable ethical uses of AI tools. The answer is to acknowledge this and not to pretend it doesn't exist.
As it turns out, Joe really is no Robinson Crusoe. This study from the Thomson Reuters Foundation suggesting as many as 8 out of every 10 journalists in some regions use AI in their work. And notwithstanding her ill-advised reliance on the machine, it seems patently obvious Crikey's hardline position is really not sustainable. Conceding in an email to us, it is indeed having trouble holding back the tide. But these tools, while revolutionary, are also perilous, no matter how much they weasel their way into our lives. And journalists, above all others perhaps, must be vigilant to the risks they pose to the foundations of good reporting, independent research, clear thinking, and above all else, words on the page that actually make sense. And that's all from us tonight. Be sure to check us out on ABC iView, as well as YouTube and Facebook. You can find full statements on our website. And don't forget to send us your tips. See you next week.